Hello Vago and Docker fans. Today I'll be talking about device and application management. The reasoning for this is that whenever you have a fleet of devices in a production environment, you need a solid tool chain for proper administration, firmware upgrades, application deployment, and device security. Therefore, I have prepared an example setup that I would like to show you on the next two slides, and afterwards we will go to a live demonstration. I'm using a Wago Edge computer and four second generation PFC 200s. All devices are connected via LAN. On the Edge computer, I have installed a device provision package. This is comprised of a user interface for Docker, specifically Portainer, for simple and graphical Docker use. I also have a DHCP server because my devices require temporary IP addresses. I have an NTP server to provide accurate timestamps to my devices, even though they are not connected to the internet. This is to ensure the validity of certificates. There is also an ARP server for new device discovery and a local image registry so that I can save applications that I would like to roll out to devices later. Of course, everything in the system is containerized using the Docker engine. How does this work specifically? The devices are connected to each other using the Portainer server and the Portainer agent, which are located on the Edge computer and PFC 200s respectively. The communication is secured using mutual TLS. Provisioning occurs in one fell swoop. The new Edge device receives an IP, an NTP address, the hostname is changed, and the Portainer agent is installed and started with the proper Edge key and ID so that it can communicate with the Portainer server. Lastly, the standard password of the device is changed to ensure that the device is initially secure. Now we will take a look at the live demo of this. For step 1, we will need the Portainer Edge agent on the devices and pointing to the Portainer server. You can retrieve the installation command for the Edge agent in Portainer server itself. You go to Environments, click Add Environments, select Docker Standalone, and select the Edge agent standard. Here you just need to provide a name, and Portainer will create the environment for you and provide you the startup script. If we go into that environment now, we will see also this startup script again. And what we need here is the Edge key and the Edge ID for our further steps, and you can find them here. So now for step 2, we have created all the corresponding Edge agents for all 4 PFCs, and now we can use Edge groups and Edge tags. You can do this over here via the settings. Here you can create your own tags, your own groups, and attach them to the environments. As an example, I've added worker 104 to the PFC G2 devices group and given it the tag metric agent. These tags and groups are important when we roll out our applications to the masses of devices. Now let's provision our first PFC. Let me show you what I use locally on the Edge computer. Let's take a look at the container list, and you'll see my device provisioning package, Portainer itself, DHCP server, NTP server, a local registry with the user interface, and app server. How do we reprovision the device? Of course, we need the credentials. Environments gives you a list of the PFCs you have created, and now I want to provision the first one, and I find the Edge key and Edge identifier up here. So now to reprovision the devices, I've actually opened up another tab of Portainer so we can switch back and forth easily. And now I'll go to my local stack and use the app templates here. I've written a template myself, which is described in the Portainer. This process is described in the Portainer documentation, and I've called it one-touch provisioning. I'll just click on that, and there are a few input fields. So I need a MAC address of the new device. To do this, I simply look at my app server and see all of the new devices here. In my case, the new devices are above 200, and I know 200 is the first device I want to provision. So I need the MAC address of the 200 device. I briefly put it in the clipboard. 00330D is not necessarily because Wago devices always have 0030DE. And I add the MAC address here. I just have to say then what the device should be called, worker 101 in my case. I tell it also where the registry is, and I give it a new IP. In this case, it's 10101. It also gets a new password in the first step. Obviously, you can use a more complex password, but I don't need it in this case because the device is totally secured at the end of this session. So it's actually not able to be accessed with any password. So then I just need to add the edge key and the edge ID, and I'll get that from the environment. So I'll just copy these over and enter them into the corresponding fields. So all we have to do now is click deploy, and once the container is started, it communicates all of the settings and credentials to the new PFC. The password has been changed, the IP address has changed, the NTP server. So if we go back to the home screen of Portainer, we'll see that what used to be the no heartbeat has changed to a green heartbeat signal. That means that the Portainer agent has been installed and is communicating with the server correctly, and we can click on the environment, and Portainer will actually connect in a bidirectional way to this edge agent on worker 101. So if we can now see all the running containers on this device, in this case, just the edge agent for now. Now I'll reprovision all the other 3 devices for you and we'll continue. So now that I have all the devices provisioned, I just wanted to show you the log files from the last provision container. You can see it has found the controller at the proper address. It changes the gateway, the IP address. It sets a new host name. It makes the NTP server known. Enables Docker, configures Docker, and it also tells it where the local registry is located. It prepares the device then and then installs the edge agent on the remote PFC. As you can see, all the devices here are registered now with a heartbeat. So that means all the Portainer agents are communicating with the server, and I can connect directly via the remote to the remote device via the Portainer server by clicking on the respective environments. Now we want to try to deploy and administer the devices en masse. So, instead of just clicking on the environment and deploying containers, we want to be able to just deploy to all of them at once. Before we do that, let's check to see that we've actually changed the password like I mentioned. So if I go into the console here, I can try to use the default password Wago, which doesn't accept. If I use Wago01, the new password that I set, it allows us, and we can still access the device via the console. Okay, so the next step is to secure the devices, and actually all the devices at once. So to do this, we'll take a look at the environments, and you can see that I have all 4 devices in the PFC 200 G2 devices group. What this means is that with this group I can target all the devices in parallel with the same deployment. So I can go over and create a stack. Go over to the stacks, and you can see I have a stack named Manage Secure. When we click into it, we can see that it's just a compose file that uses a specific image. In my case, it's the Alpine image with a script that generates a key pair on the device, which is then used to give the containers permission to interact with the host. I can increase the password level if I like. I can also use a random password so that the container generates a random password and communicates that to the PFC. I can also say I want to switch off the SD card boot. Now, once the secure keys are generated, the device cannot be accessed anymore if besides through the Portainer agent. So that means that there's no chance of outside intervention. So let's get this deployed to all of the different devices now. I'll go to Edge Groups, and you can see I have a group called Manage Secure. If we click on that, right now it's a dynamic group, so it's based on the tags. So initially it was tagged with nothing, but I'll change it so that we include all of the new devices that we just added. You can see here now that they're listed. And we update this group. And if we go back to the stacks, we'll see that all of the devices have now received the command to start this container to generate the secure keys. And it'll just take a few minutes for them to get that all sorted. So the next step would be to add further security measures, such as logging in via the web-based management of the respective device and disabling ports and services you don't want or need. But we want to do this also en masse. So if we go back to Portainer, we will see that we have the stacks list, and we'll see the secure web server stack, and we'll just do the same thing as before. We'll go into the secure web server group, swap out the tags, and we'll see that the devices then get populated. And if we update the update the group there, go back to stacks, we'll see that the devices have received the deployments and have started. So let's just take a peek to see that it worked. If I refresh the page here, we will see that we have secured the device by using that edge stack. Now, of course, we can also undo this. We have another stack. If we go back to Portainer, this is the insecure stack. We can also put this to all the devices, but obviously, if by using tags, we can target individual devices. So let's say, for example, I only wanted to unlock the 101 device. I can go into the edge group, delete that tag, swap out the tag for the single management one. And there are no devices yet in that group, but if we go to environments, go into that device and retag it, it will populate and also receive that stack, and we can confirm that by going to the stacks page here. So in the next step, I want to deploy the metric agent to all of our devices. I've already set up an influx database and Grafana on the Edge PC, which we'll then use later to monitor the devices. You can see that here. So to do this, we need the metric agent, and of course we're going to roll it out en masse using Portainer server. This is the metric agent here. I delete the nothing tag and then add the metric agent tag to it. And you'll see that it finds all of the devices. We'll save that and go back to the stacks, and you can see that all of the devices will start to receive the proper software. Of course, with this deployment, we pass along the credentials so that the devices can communicate or send data to the influx DB and start pushing their data there. So once these are all started, the devices should be visible in Grafana, and all 4 of them. And we see that the first ones have already started to register. So now we want to roll out code assist to all the different devices. And of course, this is also in a Docker container. First, let's check out our device 101 in this case. We'll check the firmware. We can see it's firmware 24, which means that code assist has to also match this. My code assist version is actually for firmware 25. So that's why we're putting code assist in the PLC runtime in the Docker container to abstract away the differences between the hardware and the software. So we'll just install it the exact same way as before and change the tags. You'll see the devices again. And we can go back to Edge Stacks, and we will see that all of the devices are receiving this deployment as well. We can also see here that the device is running firmware 24, but the container is for code assist for firmware 25. And to close it out here, I just also want to show that you can update the firmware also using Portainer, same as before with Edge Stacks. We'll just quickly look in here, and you can see that we can choose which firmware version that we want just by changing the configuration. And this can then also be deployed, like before, to single devices or all devices at once. So in conclusion, you can see that Portainer can be used to manage a fleet of devices very easily. We actually can manage up to 5,000 devices using this one interface, greatly simplifying the administration and deployment processes in your projects. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.